victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decide the fiction from the truth. Society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their fucking opinion.
What's happening? Here we go. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Good to see everybody. My loved ones. Good to... I might not have ever met you in person. I might not know what your face looks like, but I consider you part of my family. I really do. And I hope that you feel the same about me. A lot of us have been together a very long time in this doing what we're doing here. So I'm happy to see everyone and happy to still be doing this, doing something that I love doing. Couple of things. Thank you, Sean. Happy 2025 to you too. Thank you, Lauren. Yep. Is that right, Andrew Burke? Is that right, Andrew Burke? Noise fan number one. Rubble is here. All right. Good. The gang's all here. I'm excited about today's show. Hey, Paul Stone, what do you say, man? Good. You know, a couple of things. First, I want to say that today's show. A couple things about today's show. First, our hearts go out to everybody out in the Los Angeles area that have been going through the horrible situation out there. I know a lot of people out there. You might as well. So our hearts go out to everybody that's out there and that has been going through that. You know, my kid is out there. He's okay. And Caleb's all right. And a lot of other people. But, you know, part of what this show was created for and to do is to just, the show's not about politics. It's not about, you know, that kind of stuff. It's about music. And hopefully we're a little bit of an alternative for maybe people can take an hour or so out of their day and just be about the music here and be about other things. We offer a little bit of an alternative, if that makes sense. But hey, Astoria Lou, thank you, man. And hey, Al Mitchell, Circus of Power. Speaking of the Los Angeles area, Al Mitchell, singer for Circus of Power. How you doing, Al? Are you still living in Topanga Canyon? You know? So that said, I also want to mention, I want to dedicate this show to a friend that has passed away. Many of you know her. I'm talking about Alexa Poli. And yeah, so come on, internet. There you go. So I want to dedicate today's show to the memory of Alexa Poli, who was a big supporter of what I do. She got behind the New York Hardcore Chronicles film. And at a real key moment, you know, I could almost say, you know, with a straight face, if it wasn't for Alexa's generosity, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now doing this show, because one thing leads to another that leads to another. And she was a big part of that film, you know, which led to, you know, this and that and led us here. All roads lead to the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, you know? So, you know, I dedicate this show to Alexa Poli. And, you know, Alexa, here's another shot of her. Alexa went out with her boots on. You know, she had a great sense of humor, and she had a going away party a couple months ago. And, you know, she went out with her boots on, man. Here's a shot of Alexa and I believe her daughter, who is an adult now, and Jimmy G from Murphy's Law in front of a CBGB's matinee in the 90s. So, and here's one last shot of our dear departed friend, Alexa. So here you go. Boom. There you go. So, yes, rest in peace, Alexa. And thank you. Yes, I like to think that this show is a healthy distraction. You know, I really do. And that's a great shot. Yep. And so this one's to Alexa. Yeah. So there you go. In the meanwhile, in the kitchen, in Patchogue?
Comac,
Long Island.
straight out of Comac.
Straight out of Comac. Well, look at what you got going on. Looks like you ramped up your game in that kitchen.
Yeah, I put up some canvases. Some of my travels and my stuff. I painted the walls finally. Look, we got a little Queens, a little Long Island City there.
Okay.
Greece, Rome, New York.
All right. Glad
This
to
is
see you.
nice.
Glad to see you ramping up your game.
I gotta say it was nice. We just got to see Alexa when you did the thing with Roger at Generation just a month ago. That was this is something.
Life is crazy like that, man. We just saw her a couple weeks ago, and now she's gone.
We're not here long, but it's glad that we're all here together,
Absolutely. And like I said, Alexa went out with her boots on, man. She had a big going away party, and I saw she was traveling the world, and she went out with dignity, and she had him laugh until the end, which I can only hope for so much.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right, Lori. She was traveling and doing what she loved until the end. Yep. Now, you are you're not going to make it to the show on Sunday because you are having a bit of a medical procedure, correct?
Yes, I'm actually getting a cornea. My left cornea has some illness issues in it right now, and I'm getting a certified pre-owned semi-used cornea from somebody who's no longer with us. So getting a dead guy's eye this coming Wednesday. There it is. And so I'm going to be out of commission for a couple of days and then a couple of weeks from work. So hopefully all will go well. And I'm wondering if it's haunted or not. Like if I'm
when you get a dead guy's eye,
will I see what he saw?
If you pass someone in the street and you're like, that guy looks familiar, or like
that guy owed me $10. Like, I mean, did I sleep with that girl?
Didn't I shtick that girl in the back of the car like as a teenager?
But I mean, and I don't know much about. I mean, I know that my cornea has a lot of issues, and they're going to implant all these healthy cells from this one that no one's using anymore. So zombie eye, the 20 eyes in my head. It's going to be interesting.
20 eyes in my head.
I'm going to be going into the city at NYU Langone, so I'll be there. And, so unfortunately I will be missing Sunday's show, and I will be missing Wednesday's show with Jimmy Ferrari. So,
okay.
I apologize for that, but, maybe they'll give me an eye patch.
Listen, you know what? I'll say this, as somebody who has had a family member tragically pass very young, her organs were donated, and I believe her cornea and a lot of her other, what's the proper way to say it?
Vital organs.
Vital. Thank you, bro. I probably would have said something inappropriate there.
Right.
But I just think it's just great when people
It's so
you know.
huge because you could be dying and saving 20 lives with what's with what you're not using anymore.
Yeah.
Your kidneys and
we went through
like
we went through it in my family, man. We had someone pass very young, and her, it was heavy stuff, man.
Yeah, and then if you're not an organ donor, I mean, it's probably something easy to switch. I mean,
your eyes without a face.
Oh, we can. my brother made
eyes without a face. Ain't no human race. Your eyes without a face. Yeah, long John Messina. Thank you, Lenny. You get a patch to be Long John Messina.
Arg. Matey.
Arg. That said, you sent me a couple of pictures.
Yeah.
Let's, being that, this is when when we're sort of saying goodbye to that eye here, and this eye, that eye that we're saying goodbye to. Tell us about what's going on. You kind of picked this, what's happening here, or better yet, does anybody know who this is?
Yes.
We're right answers only, please. Or
okay.
Right? Anybody? What do you got here? Let's see. Yep.
I wanted to stay in the vein of our guest. Well, that's the only hint I'll give you.
Is it Deborah Coons Garcia? No. Come on, Ray. Knock it off. Let's see. That's a nice. Oh, that's an Epiphone he's playing. It's nice. Let me see. There's another one. Anybody? Can anybody know this band? Rancid. Oh, kind of in the ballpark, I guess, right?
Well, we're definitely in the oi vein today, so
we're in the oi vein.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep. Anybody? Nobody's got a clue on this one, huh?
We're going international on this one.
Is it Bricklayer?
No, sir.
Okay.
Here's a hint. They're from the Netherlands.
They're from the Netherlands.
Yes.
Is it Street Dogs?
No, not Street Dogs. Love the Street Dogs, though.
Is this what venue is this? Is this the Meadows?
This is actually the Meadows, actually.
Right.
This is the Meadows.
Yep. Is it Devo?
Never got to see Devo.
I've never seen Devo either. And yeah. Okay. Tell us enough cha-chang around here. We have a show to do. Tell us who this is.
This is a band called the Young Ones.
The Young Ones.
This is the Young Ones from the Netherlands. These guys are.
Oh, he got it. Dick Van Butlet. Oh, that's.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew somebody wouldn't let me down.
Yeah.
Yes, these guys. I saw. This is from April of last year, actually.
Right.
And great. This is definitely great international oil.
Way to go, Dean.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go, in the vein of our guest, of course, and they played. It was a great bill, actually. It was Lion's Law, a band called Cran, and the Young Ones, and this is so much fun. This was a great night.
Cool.
And the funny thing is, when I met these guys, the first thing they asked me was, "Where's Sid?" They knew Sid the Kid, but he hadn't gotten it yet. Now,
Sid the Kid's a legend.
He's an internationally known.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Robert Hogg from Scotland says, "I'm not sure, but the singer's wearing a Rifle shirt. A really great band from London, well worth checking out. Saw them live with the Chisel."
Oh, nice.
All right, buddy. Well. Your eyes without a face.
Well, I will see you.
I'll keep an eye out for you.
Keep an eye out for you. But yeah, I will definitely see everybody Not Wednesday and not Sunday, but the next one for sure.
All right. I'll talk to
Yeah.
you soon, man. There you have it, Hardcore Shutterbook, Stephen Mesita. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by we were sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, but we still love them. The Texas Silver Rush. We are sponsored by DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, Mad Vintage, and 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them. Ramp up your game. www.126clothing.com. That said, let's clear the deck. Let's make sure everything's okay in the chat room. Nobody's killing each other. There are no inappropriate interlopers. And here we go. Clear the deck. Today's guest is a singer, songwriter, and sometime bass player hailing from Tacoma, Washington. He's known for his work with the bands Airs and Graces, Stadium Way, but primarily for his work as the frontman for the street punk oi band Noise. Please welcome, coming at us from Raleigh, North Carolina, Mr. Matt Henson. Hey, man.
Hey, Drew, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Is that true that you guys you've had more snow down there than we've had up in New York?
We got like an inch and a half, maybe, which for my kids is a lot. So it was enough to warrant them going outside, making snowballs, bringing them back in the house, letting them melt on the floor. So all the best aspects of a North Carolina blizzard.
That's exciting. I mean, do you remember it snowing down there before, or is that very unique?
It does occasionally. So I was stationed at Fort Liberty for a long time. And it, maybe once a year, we'll get some snow. In Tacoma, once or twice a year. It doesn't snow as much as most people would think. So that being the case, because it's such a rarity, the kids get super excited. Also, there's no school, which is an added bonus for them.
Just sort of freestyling it here, and we're going to kind of get into your background and everything. What was the most? Where was where were you the most extreme weather where you've ever lived or was stationed?
Afghanistan and Iraq.
I kind of felt. I kind of figured. Yeah.
It was, and then Korea gets very cold as well, but nothing as extreme as the heat.
Would you have rather dealt with the extreme heat or the extreme cold?
No.
Just no.
And as I get older, I get less less acclimated faster. So I just become just a complete crybaby at either end of the spectrum. But I will say there's only you can keep putting clothes on to protect you from the cold, but there's only so many you can take off.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. So, okay, let's begin the process. Let's bounce the ball back and forth. Lots to talk about. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
I did, very much so. My grandmother was a singer. My mom's entire side of the family was very, very musically inclined. So music was an integral part of just about everything we did. So lots of car rides as a little kid, and being ingrained with everything from soul to 60s and 70s rock, and then when I was really little in the 80s, my mom listened to 80s pop. So this kind of homogenous mixture of music that I was exposed to by different parts of my family, I think inadvertently shaped how I look at music, and very much how I write music. But it was very musical in our house.
Did you move around a lot? Was your dad in the military?
No, well, he was. Dad got drafted.
Right.
Dad sold houses, so he moved quite a bit. We actually moved just as much as a military family would.
Okay.
So, as such, we spent a lot of time in the car. My mom and I would bounce back and forth. We would live someplace. My dad would move, and then we would every weekend go and see him. And so it equated to lots of long car rides where we were singing along together to lots and lots of music. My mom was more of a Motown fan. Dad was more into rock and roll, and yeah, as a result, I got ingrained with a lot of 60s, 70s, and 80s pop.
Sure. Was that? Did you grow up mostly on the East Coast or the West Coast?
East Coast mostly.
Yeah.
Grew up in Georgia most of the time. Most of my childhood, I was introduced to punk rock and hardcore in Georgia, and my first show was in at the Masquerade in Atlanta.
Oh wow.
A very long time ago.
I am familiar with the Masquerade. For a few reasons, I directed a music video for a band called Stuck Mojo at the Masquerade. Yeah, and that was, I guess, in the mid '90s. What was the first music that spoke to you, that you felt like this was mine? This is my music.
Minor Threat was the first, and I know that's a very kind of generic punk rock hardcore answer. But the reason that it resonated with me as much as it did is my friend Jake, that lived 2 doors down, had a Minor Threat CD that he played for me. And the first song that I heard was their cover of Steppin' Stone.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the Monkees when I was a little kid. Very specifically, when I was 7 years old, during the summer, the Monkees were on. I would watch the Monkees, so I was very aware of their songs. And so when I heard that, it was a very kind of overt departure from where I had grown up musically, while still clinging to a little bit of something that I understood, right? So I thought it was kind of a metaphor for taking what I had always been about and known, and then packaging it in a way that was consistent with all of the angst and all of the frustration and everything that I was experiencing, but I didn't know why. It was just this inherent, like, cliche teenage angst where you're pissed off all the time, but you're not really sure why. That became both the vehicle for expression, but also kind of the soothing medication for it at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And interestingly enough, I don't think anyone's ever on the show in the 360 episodes or whatever we've done. Minor Threat's never come up as it's a lot of times it's usually like Kiss or something like Black Sabbath. So very interesting, but I could certainly relate. I mean, I'm a little bit older, but Minor Threat really spoke to me as a young person. They really
I think because I grew up, also growing up in Georgia, right? I equated classic rock with a lot of different things, but none of them were mine.
That's right.
Right. There were certain bands that I would listen to with my dad, and when I hear them now, I still, think about it. But
excuse me, but Georgia, the Atlanta, the Allman Brothers are from Georgia.
Yeah, from Macon.
Yeah, I've been to Macon, and I've been to Rose Hill Cemetery in Macon, and and also who am I thinking of? Otis Redding is from Macon. Yeah, so I'm assuming that a lot of that was in the air as a child growing up down there.
It really was, very much so. And then I got into, the same time I got into punk rock, I got into hip hop. And, being in Atlanta at the time when like Outkast and Goody Mob and, groups like that started, but I was also really into Tribe Called Quest from New York, Wu-Tang.
Sure.
To me, punk rock and hip hop kind of had kind of an interchangeable manner of looking objectively at the world around them, and using the music as a vehicle for expressing kind of where they were, right, socially. So to me, it was very much, similar. There were
Yeah.
parallels to both. Punk rock just kind of resonated with me a little bit more. I saw it as something that I could potentially create one day, while being part of the scene and going to shows and feeling like an active participant versus a audience member.
Yeah, and we've often discussed how for many of us, punk rock or hardcore and hip hop really ran parallel for a lot of us, as young people, and there was a lot of cross pollination there. Up here in New York, I mean, you had bands like Biohazard and that, or Dog Eat Dog, or bands that took a lot of those elements and sort of reinvented themselves. So there was a lot of it. It was a very vibrant musical time for sure.
Yeah, and the Atlanta punk rock scene in the mid '90s was amazing. I mean,
Right.
it was a great time. It was a great time to grow up and a great time to get experienced, uh, and acclimated and introduced kind of to that whole scene.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where does I want to ask, what was your first band? How did it come together? But did your entrance to the military precede that?
Yes and no. I was in a band with a couple of friends in Georgia prior to joining the Army.
Okay.
And we were called 42 Drop. Don't bother Googling it. You're not going to find anything. We recorded a demo, which we had a lot of fun doing. And nothing really ever came of it. Right. But it was my introduction to creating music with other people,
Sure.
and listening to something that I had in my head on, an actual audio file, which is kind of a big deal when you first are exposed to that. But then joined the Army. I was in the Army for actually a pretty good amount of time prior to Airs and Graces starting up. And that was the first real band that I was in as far as playing shows and releasing a record. And that was a very short-lived kind of band, but I do credit it as my introduction to a lot of the Oi and street punk scene, from a performing perspective and from a releasing music perspective, versus just going to shows. And then Noise started very shortly afterwards, and
you were in the service when you started Noise later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was in the service until 14 months ago.
Right. So from basically 1999 to 14 months ago, right?
Yes.
Incredible.
But I appreciate you verbalizing that so that I can think about how freaking long and old.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible. And walk us through a little bit. What inspired you to join the military at such a young age? Just sort of set the table for us a little bit as a young person who joined the military in 1999.
I think before I answer that, I should probably kind of articulate the fact that the Army is such an incredibly diverse organization.
Yeah.
Probably more so than any other I can think of. There's a real misconception that everybody comes to the decision to join for the same reason, or stays for the same reason. Nothing could be further from the case. Everybody has their own perspective and their own experience that draws them to the decision of joining that organization. For me, my father was in the Army briefly. My grandfather was a paratrooper, jumped into Normandy at D-Day.
Was he in the 101?
He was in the Screaming
Wow.
Eagles.
Wow.
He was a prisoner of war for them.
Wow.
I had just gotten out of jail. I was arrested for a host of things. I was basically on a path where my perpetual anger and my frustration and my really lack of discipline and inability to take responsibility for my own decisions demanded that I do something, or ultimately eventually die, or I'd be dead or in jail if I had
Sure.
not joined. But I ultimately reached a crossroads where I had to do something and I didn't know what that was. Right. So the Army was something that I moderately understood based on my dad's experience. And obviously my dad was a huge proponent of me ultimately pulling my head on my ass and doing something. So I joined, and almost instantly the structure that it provided allowed me to start to develop more as a human being and as an adult. And I stayed in it for so long because I genuinely loved taking care of people. And I think if you're unfamiliar with the military, that might be something that you just doesn't come into your mind when you think about, joining the Army, but it's a huge part of it, especially in the capacity of a leader. So that's why I stayed, but that's where I was. I was in a super dark place. Yeah, before and after.
Yeah, incredible. This is the before and after shot, huh?
Yeah. The photo on the left is actually still at my mom's house. And then the photo on the right is about 2 years ago, I think, maybe a little less. But yeah, a whole lot of time wearing the uniform.
Is that Staff Sergeant bars?
I was a sergeant major on the right.
Sergeant major. Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
And on the left, I was a young private, but
right.
Yeah. Oh, young Matt, so many things I want to tell you.
It's a familiar tale to me. It reminds me very much of my father, who was running in the streets of the Bronx and getting into trouble, and credits joining the Army turned his life around. And really gave him an opportunity and instilled some discipline, and he came out of the Army and really made a great life for himself. So
Yeah,
it's a familiar tale, and it's great,
Yeah, and for me, it provided the structure that I really need, and it also gave me the ability to. It also gave me the ability to leverage other people's experience because it's such a diverse organization. If you join the military and you do not utilize the opportunity to draw on other people's experiences and to gain empathy and grow as a human being, then you're kind of doing it wrong. It almost seems like there's someone else in the room with us now. Do you want to pop up and just say hi?
Is that your daughter that tattooed you?
That is the daughter that tattooed me.
Hi, hey, I hear you tattooed your dad. Is that right? I saw the video. You want to tattoo me next? There you go. So airs and graces. That happened once you joined, and then.
Yeah, it did. It happened about. I'd actually been in quite a while. Airs and Graces, if I'm not mistaken, was around like 2008.
Right.
And we released a 7-inch, and then it, just kind of my inclusion in that band kind of fizzled out. And fortunately, I got tattooed at a shop called Tsunami in Tacoma. And that's where Nate Leinfelder, a dear friend of mine and the founding member of Noise, where he was working. We started talking about music. He checked out an A&G show and told me about a project he was working on, and asked if I would come and play bass. And that was the birth of my inclusion into Noise. It did not have a name at the time. It was just a band that we had planned to maybe record a couple of things, and then call it a day. It just kind of it grew legs. I think when we were recording the first 7-inch for Noise, there were no ambitions beyond just getting something down and making the best music that we could with what we had at the time, which for me was very limited experience.
Is this the original lineup?
Minus Miko, who was our original drummer. So
Right.
originally, Justin on the left is also a retired soldier.
Mhm.
And the inception of Noise was two soldiers and two tattoo artists, hence the shield, kind of the coat of arms being a tattoo gun and an M4. Yes, the aroma of Tacoma is definitely still a thing. Um, you get used to it. But yeah, this was actually in Justin's basement. This is where we wrote quite a bit. And then Kenny took over for Miko on drums while I was in Afghanistan. When we came back, I think Kenny's third show was with Rancid and Cox Bar in San Francisco. So it kind of grew legs. The Oi and Noise we kind of did as a kind of a tongue in cheek, you know, smart ass commentary on our own existence. And then when it grew legs, it was like, okay, well, this is our name now. But yeah, it has been what we have gotten to do and experience as musicians is so far beyond anything that we had ambitions for in its inception that at, at this point it's just it's a perpetual I don't know, it's a perpetual experience of just bliss and I know that sounds very corny and cliche, but it, if you look at where I came from musically, having a poster of like Tim and Lars in my high school locker, and then playing Rancid's anniversary show, and then Lars helping out produce our second record. It's just an incredible experience and something that we never thought that we would have the ability to say that we had done. So it's never really lost on us, all of these opportunities and all of the ability to call our heroes our friends musically. It never gets old. It's never an experience that I get used to.
Yeah. No, it just, to me, from where I'm sitting, it just sounds like you just have some gratitude, and some perspective on it, that, which is great. Why bass? Were you recruited? Did we need a bass player? And or were you an aspiring bass player? That hasn't come up yet in the conversation. Like, why bass?
No, they needed one. They needed a bass player. I remember once reading an article that Matt Freeman did in an interview, and he said that he wasn't one of those guys that played guitar and switched to bass out of necessity. He was always a bass player. That interview has always made me feel bad because that is exactly what I was. I taught myself how to play guitar just so that I could like write songs and learn how to sing. And the Airs and Graces, the bass player was a friend of mine initially, and he was deploying, so they needed a bass player. I had played bass before intermittently, but never as anything serious. But I will say, when I picked it up and started playing, I immediately appreciated the ability to express something different when you're playing, the creativity that it allows. I think as a musician, I use that term very loosely, by the way, when it's being applied to myself. But I just really appreciated the fact that I could explore and do more with the music. So I won't say that I took to it immediately because I didn't, but I really did enjoy it. Are we going to show the dog? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, who's that?
This is Luna.
Luna.
She's
nice.
Yeah. I think Ferris really wanted to make sure that Luna was featured, so there she is.
Is Luna a puppy?
Luna's a puppy. She's taking a break from peeing on the floor right now, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
Can't
pee on the floor all the time.
Not all the time. Well, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of where bass came from. I still, when I'm writing, I still write on the guitar most of the time.
Sure.
A lot of Noise records, I still play, guitar on the recordings. But I was definitely bummed when I had to put the bass away for good.
Is that right? I guess we'll get to that, but since we're here, I mean, you played bass on up until when? Like 2 years ago in the band?
Every noise recording I play bass on.
Okay.
I hung it up, yes, 2 years ago. The band dynamic changed completely. Nate decided he was going to move on. It was entirely amicable. Jesse decided the same thing. Both of them moved from Tacoma. I moved from Tacoma. And when they made that decision, I was really reluctant to keep the band going. I I felt like those guys were such an integral part of what it was that we had created, and I really believe that the band is kind of a family first, which is another cliche thing to say, is we're family here, but we really did consider ourselves family. And I was kind of reluctant to open myself up to experience what we do as a band with other people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, over the years of jumping out of airplanes and all the other stupid crap that I've done, because of my profession, my wrists continued to get worse and worse. I experienced issues with it for years, and it got to the point where I could play the bass, but I could not play it consistently. So if I played it one day, I wouldn't be able to play it the next day,
Sure.
which for a band is bad. So lots of discussions were had. Nate is actually the person who convinced me to keep the band going. And our new drummer, Mike, who we've known for years and years and years, played in a band called Hilltop Rats out of Tacoma, who we're all friends with. He called me, and really, that was kind of the proverbial nail in the coffin of me being averse to continuing the band. That was the guy who was like, I will drum. Kenny can play guitar. Aaron can play bass. We got you. We're gonna do this. And I was essentially like, we'll see what happens.
Fantastic.
So we played punk rock bowling in 2023, and I was blown away by how good those guys sounded and how much hard work they put in with just a few months notification to become the new noise lineup.
Fantastic. Let's touch on, this is the first release, right?
That's Walk Beside Us. Yes.
Yeah. Walk us through this a little bit. Any memories, any perspective all these years later? Has it aged well for you?
It has, actually. There's a lot of things that I've written, and as I've grown as a person, and I think most people that write can say this. I'm a big believer in continuing to develop and continuing to learn. So in that context, I think some things don't necessarily, resonate the same way as you get older. That 7-inch, though, for what it was, I think the sound is amazing. I love the way that it was produced, but I love more what it represents, which is the infancy of something that would come to be such a gigantic part of my life. And I remember so fondly, my dad actually took that picture. He passed away a few years ago, but yeah, I like the cover too, Ray. A very, very talented artist named Muna Salik actually did the first couple of records, the art for them. An incredibly talented artist. But yeah, that's actually overlooking the Ninth Street Bridge in Tacoma, and I just, again, the entirety of that experience and release represents such a cool, kind of gratifying time in my life. My son had just been born when that record came out. It was just, times were simpler then, Drew.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's great that a docket like that exists, and you feel good about it. Yeah. All these, all these years later.
Yeah.
And then you guys have a little bit of a catalog, and was this? Am I understanding this? This kind of came out right before you did a tour of Afghanistan?
Yes. We released This Is Who We Are right as I was heading out the door. And we had a few things like Idle Action was actually recorded right before I left. So yeah, this is Muna did this artwork as well. This is in Belfast, I believe. And when he sent me this, it just blew my mind. All of the art inside of this record is just astonishing. And yeah, I think this 10-inch is really kind of where we came into our own as kind of a sound. And then I think Idle Action being the catalyst of the initial lineup and where we were musically. And I think it was a perfect place to leave off and then continue. But yeah, this was great. Again, super fond memories of this entire experience.
Paul Stone says Muna is awesome artist, and he did the art for Keyside Strike, Iron Cross Split, and the Take album. He's done tons. Is that the first Take? Is that the first Take album, Paul, or the which Take album? I directed two videos from. I directed two music videos of the first two Take videos from their first record. I directed. And we'll get to that, but you're playing with them next week.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. And you showed some great photos that Steven took of the young ones whom we played with twice, both in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So I knew the answer, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, okay, so is that right, Paul? He did okay. For the first Take album, yeah. I'm a big fan of the Take. What's up, Sean Brennan? There you go. I was just in the recording studio with him a couple hours ago. We were doing our new record. Thanks for tuning in. Kind of walking through the discography here a little bit. I like this cover a lot. Is this old Tacoma here?
That is so that's Seattle, actually.
Old Seattle. Okay.
2nd Avenue in Seattle in, I want to say, the 20s. I actually Googled that image to make it the cover for the record. I Googled some imagery just because I knew that I wanted the title track to be Rising Tide. So I wanted to incorporate both the song and kind of where we're from. So hence the album art.
And the majority of this material was put out on Pirates Press.
Initially, Rising Tide came out on GMM, as did Scars We Hide, and then both were re-released on Pirates Press later on.
It seems like you have a good relationship with them, I'm assuming.
100%.
You've put a lot. Yeah, give us a little perspective on that.
I think I am probably the worst person to talk to about an experience with a record label because I am so overtly biased by the relationship that we have had and the experience we've had with Pirates Press. The Pirates Press really they sell themselves as a family, right? Which a lot of organizations do. And it's been my experience that the vast majority of organizations that package themselves as a family dynamic are grossly, miscommunicating what they are. Pirates is not. The reason that we're going to have merch available at those shows is because Pirates Press is jumping through their ass to send us merch. The reason that we've been able to have exceedingly quick turnaround times for releases that coincide with my deployments and all the other crap I have to do with my job, it's 100% because of Pirates Press. So, were I to work with any other record label at this point, I'm sure there's tons of amazing record labels out there and they operate very similarly, but I am very, very, very lucky, as are, the entire band, to have that experience.
Makes sense. You know what? I don't think there are particularly tons of great labels out there these days, but there's a handful of them. But
I wanted to throw that out there so I didn't offend anyone.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'll offend slightly.
Got it.
But yeah, you're very fortunate to have a home, for your music where you're appreciated and loved, and there's a sense of urgency too. I mean, like you said, that's big. It's like you know, you put stuff out, and you know, usually it takes a long time.
Yeah,
You know,
Skip, Eric Mueller, the head honcho at Pirates Press. He and I have conversations. There are a few people that I count myself extremely lucky to be able to bounce ideas off of and get a very pragmatic, intelligent response and perspective that I appreciate. He's one of them. The only reason that Liam is a single and was ever released is because Skip called and talked to me about it and talked me into doing it. I was going to sit on that. I thought it was too personal. And just, I didn't think it would be received very well. And I wanted to kind of keep it to myself. He's the reason that was released. He's the reason that Stadium Way was ever a thing. It was just an idea I had. But yeah, we owe that label a significant amount.
James G. Warrior says it's good to hear because we all know our horror stories from record labels, but being a fan of that label for so long, relieved. You know,
yeah.
So good,
James. I can't. You know, I'm not being paid to say this. Those are just fundamentally good people who are passionate about the music and passionate about the scene and passionate about the audience that keeps them going. So it is not a dynamic where they lull themselves into a sense of the audience or the consumer owing them anything. It's very much the adverse. So Pirates Press rules.
Yeah. And here's this was the first full length, correct? And
yes.
And this is something I listened to about 300 times this week. And
oh wow.
So well, you know, I do my homework.
Our apologies.
What so the first full length comes out a couple years after the band's around. Was this a Herculean effort? How did this come to be?
This was the culmination of a lot of sessions in the studio. So when Justin Miller left the band in 2013, Jesse O'Donnell, who had up to that point recorded almost everything that we'd ever done, as with most Tacoma punk bands, Jesse had a studio out of his basement, and he agreed to become our guitar player. So that being the case, we didn't do this intentionally, but it was a great secondary kind of benefit for having him in the band. We had access to the studio 24/7.
Wow.
So the reason the Scars We Hide was able to be put together with thanks, Rubel. Andrew Burke is a teammate of mine at work, and he's awesome. And he absolutely shreds on the guitar. But that was ultimately a culmination of a lot of different sessions. As we would write songs, we would get them down as quickly as possible. And once we had everything kind of solidified, we started getting the track listing the way that we wanted. A lot of these songs didn't even have names. They were like the one that goes did 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 did. I remember Nate and I specifically sitting and actually writing all of the titles to the songs. We got our friend Greg from a band called Bishop's Green in Canada to come down and help us with the gang vocals. And this is a record that the first pressing, Lars assisted with the post production, which is just, you know, mind blowing. But that right there, it just represents kind of a that right there just kind of represents a really big step, I think, for the band's kind of progression, where we kind of started to figure out what we were doing.
You mentioned Lars. How did your paths cross? I mean, how did you guys start working together?
Nate knew Lars from the Rumblers way back in the day. When we released Walk Beside Us, I remember Nate showing me a message that he had gotten with Lars had apparently heard it organically and sent Nate a message saying he really liked it. I began talking to Lars, and I remember maybe 4 or 5 days before I went to Afghanistan, Lars asked me to call him, and we spoke for a very long time about just everything, not just music. But this was right when This Is Who We Are came out. And so he agreed to help us out a little bit. And fast forward maybe 10, 11 months, I was in Afghanistan waiting to go home. And I got an email from Lars saying, hey, you guys are going to play with us at the Warfield in San Francisco.
Wow.
The 20th anniversary of Rancid and 40th of Cox Bar. Once I closed my mouth from just my jaw being on the floor, I went and told my commander, because we're still in Afghanistan. I told my commander, I was like, sorry, is it okay if I take leave immediately on because I need to go to San Francisco and play a show with this band called Rancid. I went, Rancid? Can we go?
That Rancid?
So needless to say, I got permission to do it. But that was that show right there. I mean, just when I talk about the band, there's just a series of rungs that we never expected to ever touch. That was another that show and the experience of playing that show with just two legendary bands that I've loved since I was a little kid. It was surreal. It is still surreal. But that is one of the things that I'm the most thankful and grateful for, frankly, about this band, is the fact that it has allowed me the ability to experience things that I never would have even dreamt of experiencing.
As I say, music is like that. You know, music is like that. It's the tie that binds us together, and it's the community and the culture, and a lot of beauty. A lot of beauty comes. Is that Ray Hogan? Is that right, Ray Hogan? You canceled a trip to Chicago to see Noise and ID play next weekend. Well, we're going to talk about that in a little while. But thanks. We appreciate you canceling your Chicago trip to come to the Barn Burner at Berlin. That's coming up a week from today.
Ray, we will try not to blow it.
Yeah. 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 There you go. Was Dull the Pain was a 7-inch that came out a bit after that, 2 years later.
Dull the Pain would have been Dull the Pain was actually a single we released prior to Real Enemy.
Okay.
And again, that was Pirate's idea, is to take an unreleased song and then a song that we really liked from the upcoming record and put it on a single. But yeah, Dull the Pain, that's one of my favorite songs that I've written, just because it's one of those that everything that Noise writes, we try and write objectively looking at the world around us. But some of those observations are a little more personal than others. Those that have directed us very, very closely, versus those that we're kind of watching through the lens of, a concerned citizen or whatever the case may be. But that song right there means a lot to me, because of, I wrote it about a very dear friend that I was very concerned about losing. And I still talk to him this day. So it's I think it's an illustration of the benefit of being able to write music, is that you can use it as a vehicle to express things that are very, very innately personal. But you can set it to music that also resonates with you on a different level. So it's just a all-encompassing experience that, artistic expression is, I think people who aren't familiar with punk or hardcore would listen to it and not really chalk it up to a lot of artistic expression, because they equate artistic expression with something entirely different. And then they'll go to like a Taylor Swift show. Nothing against Taylor Swift, by the way. But it's just a completely different experience. And I think there is a lot of artistic merit associated with our scene and what it is that we are providing. It just resonates with different people on a different level. And Dull the Pain is something that just implicitly resonates with me in every conceivable way, which is why I like it so much.
I know we're kind of bouncing the ball back and forth here, but
Good.
you're a clean and sober guy these days, right?
I am. I will hit 18 months of sobriety the day we play New York.
Is that right?
It'll be my, yep, it'll be my 18th month anniversary. So I'm excited about it. I made a decision to quit drinking when I started the transition process into becoming a civilian. I had an incredibly dark place, like a lot of vets do, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized, very much like when I came in, that if I didn't do something, my family was probably going to lose me. So I stopped. And fortunately, thanks to some friends and some support from my family and some research that I've done, I haven't touched it, and I no intention of ever doing it again. But what I try and do now is be vocal about my sobriety and my recovery, so that people who are struggling and don't understand where exactly they can reach out and get assistance, know that I can at least serve as kind of a beacon to help them, if for no other reason than to just see that it can be done. Because if I can do it, anybody can.
Has it been absolutely? Has it been? Is there a little bit of a dichotomy being in sort of like a punk oi band, and which is sort of associated with kind of hard drinking, and has it been a little weird out there playing shows, or has it been all good?
It was weird as hell, but not for the reasons you would think. It was weird for me because I have such intense performance anxiety prior to playing shows. Alcohol is something I always use to medicate myself, be it for trauma or for anxiety or depression.
Oh,
It was
you
my
too?
medicine.
You too?
I feel like there's probably a few people that probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
But my relationship with alcohol, as it pertains to recording and singing and everything else, was I used it as an anxiety mitigation tool. But what's great is that I would drink to mitigate my anxiety, but then I would get anxiety about drinking too much and then not being able to play well. So it was a constant pendulum swing that just is so exhausting. But when I quit and we started playing shows, I didn't have that anymore. So you're just going into it with both feet, experiencing absolutely everything, feeling absolutely everything. And it took me a while because I was also dealing with just being a singer as well. So I didn't know what to do with my hands, and I didn't know what to do with my brain.
Yeah.
And so it took a while. I think our European tour is where I really started to figure out my role and how to perform and completely stay sober. But my band has been immensely supportive.
That's
The people
great.
we played with have been immensely supportive. There are tons of sober people that are in the scene. Lots of people that are sick of losing friends and sick of being sick and tired, as it were. So that part was easy. It wasn't like people were like, "Hey, have a beer, have a beer, have a beer." It was more like my brain being like, "Well, you can't drink, so we got to figure this out." Yeah, it's me eating the microphone in Germany.
Yeah, they love you in Germany, man. They really do. They love you in Germany.
That particular show, that was Back to Future Fest, not to be confused with Back to the Future, which is what I was calling it, like the first 3 months that we got put on the festival. But that a lot of times when we have played Europe, you kind of have to earn the audience participation.
Sure.
And I kind of like that about it because it's more of a challenge where you really need to bring your A game and you need to, give them what they paid to see. That is the very first time I think that we have played in Europe, and from the get-go, it was just everybody is there to have fun, and it was just insane.
That's great. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Congratulations. That's awesome.
yeah, she's 16 years, man. I've been clean and sober 16 years now. That's insane. That's wild. Yeah. Sometimes I have to I have to remind myself, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm very fortunate and I'm really grateful for what I have. And listen, I mean, just for me, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for me getting clean and sober. And I think a lot of people out there know that. A lot of people that knew me before, you know, I was a bit scary before I put an end to the shenanigans. And I'm really grateful for what I have now, and friends like everybody out there, and new friends like you, Matt, and family. And to be able to, this is just me talking. This is just me. But for me to be able to show up for my family and for my friends and for my people, and to finally be able to be someone that people can count on.
Yeah.
It was big in my world.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, juggling the band, the army, and the family was a constant juggling act that I professed to be very good at, right? And on the surface, objectively, I was. You know, I was there, but I was never really present in any of those capacities, right? I was a very functional alcoholic, exceptionally functional. But I think that made it more problematic, honestly, because it wasn't so overt that I had an issue that people were coming to me saying, "Hey, you got an issue. Like, you need to square yourself away." I think that's probably why it took so long for me to come to that conclusion. And I'm just super lucky that it didn't get to that I was able to make that decision before I lost things that were the most important to me, like my family, because it's my relationship with them is so much different now. My relationship with my bandmates, my friends, everything is exceedingly better. But it's because I'm present in the moment. And I don't have that constant backdrop of, you know, alcohol. We need alcohol to do everything to function.
Underground, I'm Cali sober. Don't hold that against me. Does that mean you smoke? What does Cali sober mean? Does that mean you smoke grass?
You smoke weed. Yeah.
Hey, listen, whatever, man, if it works for you, I just know it doesn't work for me. That's all. You know, God bless everybody out there and what they do. And I'm not telling anybody I'm just sharing just for me. You know, this is just and I just thought, and we're going to move on because this is all unscripted, kids. This is just sort of what happens on the show. But you reminded me of something when you were just talking about sort of like how you were functioning, you know, and I was talking about this the other day with someone, and I said to them, you know, in a way, I'm glad that I went supernova and blazed out as fast as I did, and then got clean and sober, as opposed to people I know that are functioning and still at it and still are really struggling to sort of get a grip with it. In a way, you know, not that it was an easy ride, but going sort of blazing out and going supernova, you know, because it was obvious to all those concerned that I had an issue, including myself, you know, enabled me to sort of, I'm glad that, you know, I was able to sort of snap out of it and not sort of go on and on and on and on. Although I did go on and on for a while, you know,
just kicking the can down the road, which is ultimately what I did. But I think I kept everything together just enough to function in my capacity as a soldier and a leader.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was able to have a very successful career in the Army, but almost to my detriment, because I was able to point at that and say, well, I don't have a problem. See all of the, you know.
Yeah.
So, still listening to myself talk in front of soldiers.
Yeah, we need to take a break, and I was gonna come back with this, but you sort of touched on it. tell us about what's happening here, and this is sort of towards the end of your Army career, correct?
This is a few months ago. That was in
tell us
November.
about what this is.
So this is me. A friend of mine is in charge of that company. They're in Korea currently, and he asked me to come and speak to his soldiers. I have, in just about everything that I do, have tried to leverage my experience to pass it on and help other people, whether it's positive or negative. Sobriety is no different. And I try and teach my kids the same thing. If you experience something positive, negative, and different, you have a fundamental obligation to use that to help the people that you care about. And when I talked about why I stayed in the Army as long as I did, I talked about it. I did it because I cared about the kids that were joining, right? Regardless of how you feel about, any reason one would have to join. Ultimately,
and let me just interject. And man, they look young. These kids, they look like kids.
They are kids.
Incredible.
They are. And I look at them as the sons and daughters of, Americans, right? From all different walks of life, from every socioeconomic background that you can think of. They're there. These are kids from other countries. These are kids from the streets. These are kids from good homes. These are kids that, just finished college.
Mm-hmm.
They're all represented in rooms like that. And so what I do is I use my platform, or I still do in a limited capacity, but I use my platform to try and let them know that their first and foremost objective as a soldier should also be their first and foremost objective as a person, and that's to continue to grow and to leverage the relationships that you build and the experiences of the people that you're working with to become a better person. And it's entirely possible, but it saved my life. It saved my life, my service, 100%. So I owe it more than it owes me. But again, that's just trying to give back and trying to make myself available to assist people using my experience and my position as much as I possibly can. But that's what's going on in that room, coupled with me putting some kids to sleep. But it's okay. I don't take it personally.
There you go. Just before we take a break, I see Sergeant Rock out there, who is the front man for American Eagle, who's playing with us also on Sunday. What's happening, Rocco? Proud of you both. 90 days sober. Well, it's going to be that kind of a party, I guess, at the Bowery at Berlin. But thanks, Rocco, and we're really excited that you're a part of the show a week from tomorrow. We're going to talk about that. But let me take a sponsor break now. Matt, it'll be a couple minutes if you need to get up for a second, and we'll come back and we'll continue on our journey. Okay?
Yeah, I'll go clean up some dog pee.
I'll see you in a few. There you have it. That's right. Our guest today is Matt Henson from Noise, and we still have a long way to go. We're playing together this weekend. Got a lot of other great pictures. This is it. You asked for it, you got it. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. And it's great to see everybody. You light up my life. You really do. And I love you. I might not ever have met you face to face, but you are a big part of my life. and now a word from our sponsors. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Yo, what's happening? I'm out here at one of our all-ages Sunday matinees on the Bowery. I hope that you are enjoying today's show. I just want to let you know that the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live needs your support. Please step up. There is a Patreon page that has a lot of unique program. Shows are announced there first. Lots of good stuff. There's a PayPal address right there on the screen if you want to make a contribution. There's also a super chat function. You could do that, but the bottom line is this show exists because of your support. We're going to be doing it for a long, long time. Thank you for all your support through the years. Back to the show.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their phone.
And we're back. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Yeah, oh, you caught the Long Beach United Boxing Club. You know, I saw it in the closet today, and I was like, yeah, all right, it's that kind of a party. So, yeah, shouting out Dougie and everybody out there. Yes. What else? Hey, I want to mention some upcoming shows. There will be a show this Wednesday because this Sunday, Noise is playing New York and ID's playing with them. But this Wednesday, Jimmy Ferrari from Delta Bravo Urban Exploration Team will be on the show. You know, we had Danny Boy from House of Pain on, who started Delta Bravo. Jimmy's really the flag bearer these days. And this is going to be a fun show. We're going to look at lots of photos, and he's going to tell us about how he went in there and did it. And Jimmy's a very animated, fun guy. 2 weeks from today, Mark Haggerty from Iron Cross and Gray Matter will be on the show. A week after that, talking about punk rock bowling, Sean and Mark Stern will be on the show. We're going to be talking about Youth Brigade and punk rock bowling. Listen, this is it, the White Whale, the Goog, my former bandmate when I joined Antidote. Of course, he drummed on the Misfits' Walk Among Us and 3 Hits from Hell. A guy that is not on social media, a guy that never does interviews. Let's just hope this happens. A couple days after that, You Asked For It, You Got It, Merle Allen from the Murder Junkies, Wednesday, February 19th. And then Sunday, February 23rd. Come on now. Big friend and supporter Dave Lombardo's coming on the show. So we're looking forward to that. Slayer, Mr. Bungle, Testament, Suicide. Listen, this is the guy. Are you a drummer? Oh, you're a drummer? Well, we got the guy. So there you go. Dave Lombardo. Rescheduled Sunday, March 9th. Carl Legel from Corrosion and Lead, Foot, and Seizure will be on the show. And we just announced this the other day. Listen, another guy that we've been chasing around since the inception of this show years ago. We got Kurt from DRI coming on the show. So lots going on. I want to mention latest patron on Patreon. And please, if you're a fan of the show, if you're watching the show for the first time, please support the show on Patreon. It's the best way to do it. The show needs your support now, so more than ever. I want to shout out Kylie Newgrass, who just came on board. Cool stuff coming up on Patreon. The new book I'm putting out is going to be available to patrons. What else? Also, I mentioned it before. There's room on the boat for another sponsor. So if you have a product that you might think is appropriate and would like to advertise on the show, please reach out to me. There's room on the boat. Very rare that there's room on the boat for a sponsor, but there is room on the boat, and that could be you. So that said, What else? Yeah, it's a stacked lineup. Absolutely. I know, a 5-year episode. You know what I was thinking during the break, why perhaps I'm being a little sentimental these days, is because I always thought, like, episode number 364 is coming up. And it's actually before that, because we've done bonus episodes, but it's getting pretty close where 1 year of my life has been spent doing this show, like waking up and going, I have a show today. Who's the guest today? A year, a whole year, 364 episodes. It's got me thinking. It just got me thinking, so once again, I'm being a little sentimental today. So that said, let's clear the deck. Let's keep at it. We'll go on for a while. We'll take another break and we'll take some questions from around the world. But hey, let's bring back Mr. Matt Henson. Hey, man.
Hey.
And let me put you over there. Lately, it seems like lately I like the guest on the left. I'm not sure why. But that said, let's talk about The Real Enemy. And
okay.
Yeah, another one of your releases that got a lot of mileage, got a lot of listening to this week. Could you give us any perspective on this? I know it's been a little less than 10 years since it's been out.
Yeah. Wow.
In retrospect, you feeling good about it? Yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
100%. So The Real Enemy, everything about it, we wrote as kind of enhancing our perspective and trying to illustrate moderately like ambiguously, but kind of projecting our perspective of what was going on around us, right? And one thing that we've really tried to work on is never coming off as preachy or giving people the impression that we have an expectation that they think this is the exact same way that we do. We try and present things objectively and allow people to make their own conclusion on kind of what it is that we're talking about. The Real Enemy is, I think, kind of the catalyst of our ability to do that. I think it also represents an enhancement of our musical abilities. I think one of the cool things about Noise to me is that I think with every record we improve in our abilities as musicians. I like to think that I improve my abilities as a writer. But this is one where as we were doing it, I would think about a particular voice or person or friend and ask if they would do some vocals for us. So as a result, Real Enemy has guest vocals from, Gordy Carbone, our friend and brother from Forgotten and Lars Ferguson's The Bastards, Amy Allen from The Interrupters, and obviously Al Barr from Dropkick Murphys. I wanted to include them if they would do it for a myriad of reasons, but not the least of which being I think it amplifies the musical expression, but also I think it's cool to get their vocal take on something that we are talking about, right? And allowing them to write their own lyrics, which is I'm big on. If we get a guest vocalist, I want them to listen to the song and I want them to interject their perspective vocally and lyrically, because I think it adds to the message. And again, I think the way that I write a song is I try and package as much as I possibly can and then give it to you as a listener and then, see kind of what sticks and what resonates. Real Enemy is, I think, yes, it's the Bruisers first. Yes, I was in the Bruisers. Sorry. But yeah, that's actually the first time I heard Al was on the Bruisers, as most people, I guess, would be their experience.
It's an interesting take, and because we're in a recording studio and we feel like doing the second record here, we want to do something similar. The first record was the statement. You know, this is it. This is our music. We wrote everything. There's no guests. This is it. 12 songs. We feel like the next one here, we want to bring in some influences and some friends. And it crossed my mind, like, if I bring in somebody, am I handing them the lyrics? It did cross my mind, and I think that's really valid. You know, it's like, here's the song, here's kind of the idea. Feel free to come up with your own lyrics. I like that. And I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, I think that perspective comes from Noise having two vocalists, honestly. And Nate and I, that was always our dynamic, is we would write our lyrics, and then, you know, Nate would not only come from a different place lyrically, but also vocally. And I think that just, you know, it set a precedent for the music having multiple voices. So if we were going to include a guest vocalist, it would make sense to continue that dynamic. But yeah, all three of them, I love their vocals, and I love the lyrics that they brought. I love that the Interrupters actually did gang vocals on The War Inside. The War Inside is about PTSD, and it's about, you know, guys coming home. But I love that Amy provided a perspective of PTSD from a civilian context. And when they, you know, Kevin from Interrupters also played all the keys on Stadium Way. So it's very similar. When we got the song back, it was just like, what they had done was just created an entirely new dynamic to the song, which I think is one of the coolest things you can do musically, is kind of send something out and get it back, and it's entirely different in a good way.
Sure. Have you seen your hardcore trading card? Have you seen this?
I have not.
You seen that?
Hey, it's a picture of me. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can see my jugular vein from space.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the front, and the back is very informative. I was reading it before the show, and that's such an honor, as is being on. I mean, you mentioned all the guests that you're having on this podcast, and I'm in the background going like, why am I here? Oh, come on.
But yeah, very much the same. I mean, it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. This is done by Joshua Hurst. He does these, and here he is. He says, "It was really done, Matt. I lied to you, so it would be a surprise for today." Okay. All right. Thanks, Matt and Drew.
That's so awesome. Josh, thank you so much, man. That just means the world. I love it. I love surprises.
I like this. Fun fact: the name of the band is pronounced as just Noise, but the addition of the exclamation point in the middle was to point out that the "oi" is right in the band's name. You know what? I did not know that.
If you ask Alexa to play Noise, she's not going to do it. So Alexa, if you're out there and you're really bored and want to hear some mediocre music, you have to say, "Alexa, play Noise." Say.
Is that right?
It is 100% correct.
Wow.
The exclamation mark makes it a new word. So Alexa, you know, thinks that our name is just as stupid as I'm sure some other people do. But yeah, she's like, "No, we're not doing that."
Was there a little bit of a scrum with the name? I'm assuming there's a bunch of other bands called. Well, actually, I know one of the guys coming on the show is in a band called The Noise or Noise NYC. I mean, there's got to be a lot of noises out there, right?
Yeah. So there wasn't a scrum as much as like it was Nate. It was Nate's band, you know. So Nate wanted "oi" to be in the name, and I was like, yeah, that might be cool. And I wanted to name the band The Indifference. The reason being is there's a quote that no evil supersedes the indifference of good men, or something to that effect, which really resonated with me, and it got voted down, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then we decided Noise, and I wanted it to be Destiny City Noise. Nate correctly said that would be too long, so we just kept it with Noise. You know, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but also kind of as a placeholder, because we were like, nobody's going to listen to this anyway, so who cares what the name is? And just, you know, We just need to
Right.
name it so that we can slap something on the flyer for the first show and like, continue on.
Mhm.
But again, just like it just grew legs. So
Yeah.
we very quickly got to a point where we're like, we can't change the name now. So
Yeah.
noise say it is.
You're locked in, and then of course once you kind of figured out this great sort of band logo and everything, you're really that's it. It's done, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Is this the Tacoma Bridge that famously did the whole that collapsed?
No, this is actually a picture of a bridge that I let my kids play on for 30 minutes. No, this is the Narrows Bridge in Tacoma. The famous back and forth
Yeah,
sidewinding bridge.
yeah, and then
this,
it just collapsed.
yeah, so this was our acoustic record. Again,
Ah.
an idea from Pirates Press, and then the Pirates came up with the idea for it to be the Narrows Bridge. They thought it was kind of a fitting representation, not of Tacoma necessarily, although it's kind of appropriate, but yeah, that was something that we kind of took a leap on. Most of the songs I write on the acoustic first. Like Rising Tide, I wrote in Afghanistan on an acoustic guitar that our label, Contra Records in Germany at the time, sent me. So they've always had kind of an acoustic version in the background, but we decided to do something definitive, and we think it came out pretty well. Our friend Dan, a brilliant guitar player from a oi band out of Texas called the Broadsiders, came in, didn't listen to anything. We showed him the songs, and then he just went into the booth and just crushed these incredible guitar parts. So all of these like layered guitars that are on this record, that's Dan from the Broadsiders.
Got it. And everybody in the chat room's kind of wigging out. I guess people saying their Alexa went off when you said when you shouted out Alexa before. A bunch of people's Alexas went off.
Sorry.
That's pretty funny. I wanted to ask you about what, and we're kind of doing a little. What was before? Was Welcome to Tacoma the last official Noise release?
It was, minus the singles that we released during COVID. So we released four singles during COVID that we had recorded up until I had to go to Texas for a year for an Army school, and before I left, we had. I mean the Noise the Noise mantra was every time we write a song, get it to where we want it, record it, have it ready, so that when the Army does whatever it's going to do with me, we have, or in this instance, when a virus does whatever it's going to do with the world, we have something that we can release while we are filling the gap of us not being in the same place. So but Welcome to Tacoma was the last kind of conglomerate of songs.
When in your Army career, I guess you just, of course, I mean, it's an obvious statement. You just kind of don't really know what's going to happen, right? You're just sort of you got to see how things play. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, obviously you're at the mercy of global events to a large degree, but I think I was fortunate in as much as I could shape some of the things going on with my unit in a training capacity so that I could find time to get out and do trips with the band. Army gets a lot of 4-day weekends. So that was prime noise traveling season. Typically we did a run with the Street Dogs a few years ago. But I remember going to the Salt Lake City airport. The boys went one way and I went another way to go somewhere for work. But yeah, that was this particular picture that Kiowa Warrior pilot actually asked to take a picture with us. And so he literally posed with a Kiowa Warrior, and then he threw Snickers out of the cockpit onto us, which was very welcome because we hadn't had any good food in a while.
Is it safe to ask where this is shot?
This was in a training exercise in Korea.
Okay. So that's Korea, huh?
That is Korea.
Wow.
Yep.
And what is going? I have to. It's kind of a little show and tell here with the rest of the Army shots, but what's happening here?
I dropped my phone.
No.
No, that's I'm doing jump master. That's performing jump master duties from the back of a CH-47. So it's a when you see the helicopter with two rotors, the ones that are perpendicular, not the crazy Marine Corps. That is an aircraft that we use to conduct airborne operations quite a bit. So that's me checking to make sure that the guys that are going to jump out are actually going to be landing in a optimal spot and not someone's garage.
I see. And yeah, that looks pretty exciting.
Yeah, it definitely commands your attention for an extended period of time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's see. We and couple of questions. Let's take a little. Let's field a couple. Dave Modell asks, is there a plan for a new album?
Yes, David, there absolutely is. We were actually just talking about this the other day. 2025 is our year. So we have already been writing pretty extensively. I reached a point with my writing where I was getting frustrated that a lot of the things that I was writing sounded so similar to things that I'd written in the past. That was another, kind of variable that when I was considering just not doing this anymore, that was another reason that I had. So with the addition of the new guys, Justin and I are already, having been in the band before, but all of these guys bring a lot of great things to the table. So what we're going to do is focus on these songs that are already written, and the guys are still in Tacoma, so they're writing new things, coming up with new songs. We're going to put our spin on it, and we're hoping to come out with, at the very minimum, a 4-song 7-inch in the next year.
Cool.
And you guys can hold me to that. So
yeah, right.
There's an element of accountability there.
So another good. Oh, Ray Hogan asks, will you have albums for sale at Berlin?
We absolutely will. Thanks to Pirates Press, we 100% will.
Good.
They won't be good, but we'll have them.
Right. Yeah. All right. Before we, you know what? I'm gonna steer it in this direction. Tell us about Stadium Way and what was the inspiration, and just walk us through it a little bit.
What I really wanted, Drew, was an excuse to fold my arms and look mean at a camera, and so we wrote a record around it
with your other friends, right?
So yeah, my best friend and bandmate Kenny. Kenny is one of the most talented musicians I've ever met. He's one of those annoying people that can pick up an instrument you're trying to play and play it infinitely better than you. He's one of those guys. Coincidentally, my buddy Craig Silverman from Agnostic Front did the same thing once. He picked up my bass and played it so much better than I could ever hope to. But Stadium Way came from I lived in Korea for a year by myself. Liam my son was 4 at the time, and at that point I had been away from my family almost 2 years. And Kenny's father, Skip, who unfortunately recently passed away, before I went to Korea, he had seen an acoustic noise video on YouTube, and he didn't like the guitar I was playing because he correctly assumed it was a piece of garbage. Let me pick out a guitar, and I picked out this incredible Sigma Korean-made, ironically, guitar. And while I was in Korea for that year, I wrote for noise, and I was writing a lot of things that just didn't really resonate with me as far as bringing to the table in the context of a noise song. It was something that I really kind of wanted to keep a little bit more personal. And And again, talking to Skip at Pirates, I sent him a little voice recording that I had of Ever Afraid, which is the first single from that 7-inch. And between he and Nate, you know, both of whose opinions I value very much, especially musically, but they said, you need to release it. And so I got with Kenny when I came home and floated the idea by him. I floated the idea by Kevin Bavona from the Interrupters, whom I met when we played with Rancid and Transplants in Seattle. And he asked me to send him the recordings that we had. And I did. And I remember going to work the next morning super early, and they were in my inbox. So I played them on the way to work. And the keys that he had done on specifically Shadows from that record, because I wrote that about my dad's Alzheimer's diagnosis, made me tear up, because it added a dynamic to that song that wasn't something that I was expecting, but it's just so incredible. So again, just super lucky to know really talented people. And the Stadium Way 7-inch, that is how it came about. I am writing more Stadium Way now. I already have a couple of things going. So
And
I'm hoping to release something else.
when you do it, you're doing just total solo acoustic.
Yep. So on the Stadium Way record, I played guitar, bass, and vocals, and then Kenny played the lead guitar, and then Kevin played keyboard on 2 of the songs. But yeah, it's when I perform, it's just me and an acoustic guitar, and one of the most terrifying things that I've ever done musically.
Yeah. Listen, to you, as we both know, the human beings get acclimated to anything. So, I rather enjoy it now. You know, I enjoy the challenge when we play acoustic and when we do this My War thing. I love it now.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I enjoy it. It's such a, after being a frontman for so long, I love like being engaged and playing an instrument on stage now. It's just I mean, I'm not saying that I'm on automatic, but I've done it a lot, so, but when doing the My War thing or when we're doing the Drew Stone Hit Squad or whatever else, I really enjoy being engaged with an instrument and playing an instrument. It's a bit of a new challenge. You guys I know you guys, is this Rebellion Fest? What is this here?
That is actually at, so we are on Randali Records in Germany. And our punk rock mom, Diana Schuler, who owns Randali, that is actually at she calls it her place. It's ultimately, the video that you showed where we played Living for Today, that is the deck outside. So she has shows there. She has it's an incredible, like, little, I don't know what you would call it specifically. It's like a German, like, villa kind of.
So that footage was you guys in the basement of her place.
It is the first floor. Yes.
That's kind of a cool place.
That's awesome.
Can we play there?
I'm sure it can be arranged.
Yeah.
It's such a cool place.
So I guess I'm looking for, go ahead. I'm looking for, let me see, this other, this.
Yeah, so that's Rebellion.
Must have been exciting.
It was amazing.
Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, we've been aware of Rebellion forever because our friends play it and people post about it. We've never been asked to play that I know of, but when we decided to do it, we'd never played anywhere in England before. But what was cool about Rebellion, just based on what it is, right? It makes it just an incredible experience. But a lot of these shows, punk rock bowling especially, is like a family reunion when you get backstage and all of your friends that you never get to see are back there.
Sure.
Right. So our friends, the Drowns from Seattle, they played a couple of bands before us. Um, you're seeing, so many people that, that's the only time you get to see them. But Rebellion specifically, I was very confident going into that show. And like, as I mentioned, I have a lot of performance anxiety. But that show, I was 100% good to go, confident, ready to roll. Then backstage, I was eating food, and Colin McFall came up from Cox Bar and said, "I'm looking forward to seeing you because we've known each other a while. I'm going to be watching you." And then that was the end of my confidence that evening. But it ended up being an amazing show. I ended up, catching up with Colin afterwards, and he enjoyed it, which is praise that can't really be replicated in any conceivable way. I'm such a huge Cox Bar fan. But
he's a nice guy too, man.
he is, and more to the point, I am a whether it's punk, hardcore. I'm a huge hardcore fan, but I am a vocal snob. If the vocals are not, if they just don't sit well with me, I can't get into the music. And when I first started getting into Oi when I was a kid, Cox Bar was a band I latched onto immediately because the vocals are so incredible. They're so melodic. It's so catchy. And having grown up in a house where pop was the thing.
Anthems,
right? Cox Bar really, Cox Bar and Dropkick Murphys Do or Die. Those were two instances where I listened to the music that I considered my music, and it acknowledged my desire to make something my own, but that still, had ties back to how I came up, which is something sticking in your head. So when I write something, I won't bring it to the table unless it is absolutely ingrained in my head and I can't get it out. But yeah, Rebellion was amazing.
Yeah. And is Rebellion Blackpool, or that's something different?
It is.
So is this the same trip?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the same. And then again, these pictures are, you get to travel with your best friends and play music,
Yeah, this is a great shot. Like there's a lot of smirks going on, but I could just read the joy in everyone's faces here.
Yeah. I have a constantly poor expression on my face. It just comes from having crooked teeth and a smile that I wasn't very excited about as a kid, and it kind of grew on me. However, this is one instance particularly where my face doesn't do the experience justice. It's just such a happy moment. Justin did a good job though. He smiled.
And it's deceiving because the weather looks really sunny and beautiful. When I first saw this, I thought it was Santa Monica. I was like,
yeah,
or the Jersey Shore. I'm like, excuse me, Blackpool?
Yep. The sun came out just long enough for us to take that picture.
That's really, oh yeah. See, Blackpool, the world's biggest toilet. Everybody's chiming in now. But they got. No, it's not the Santa Monica Pier. It is Blackpool. So there you go. Let me take this will be a quick break, and we'll come back and let's talk about you guys coming up to Philly next weekend and playing one of our shows as well. And we'll take some questions from around the world. Okay.
Awesome.
See you in a minute. There you have it. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. We are sponsored by blah, 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 and Mad Vintage. Mad Vintage buys, sells, and collects band shirts, primarily hardcore. The DIY operation was started and is operated by a hardcore kid who just loves collecting and eventually got into vintage clothing, specifically the realm of vintage band shirts. They are always looking to buy out collections to either keep, sell, or trade. New shirts added daily at www.madvintage.com and posted on Instagram. Dig deep into that closet of crapola and reach out to them. Help me help you. Mad Vintage. Last but not least, and I apologize if you hear the radiator clanking in the background. I live in a New York City pre-war building, and we are sustained by radiator heat here. Yes, last but not least, come on now, Joe Romini, the Texas Silver Rush. It's a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as the style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rolle, Ringo Starr, and of course, my friends and yours, Agnostic Front. Information on online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram page, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Hey, yo, just a reminder, please follow me and the show on Instagram, right on the bottom there, at Stone Films NYC. Also, please, if you're watching, give the show a like. That is helpful as well. And also, if you're watching a rerun, if you're watching this and it's not live right now, please subscribe right there in the corner there. Subscribe to the Stone Films YouTube channel. Once again, support the show. We also have a super chat function. If you do the super chat for a couple of bucks, ask a question, you'll come right to the front of the line. I can't miss it because it comes through in color. I do miss things once in a blue moon. There's the PayPal address. There's the Patreon, the PayPal address, and there's a super chat function. So don't be shy. Let it fly. I see people posted a bunch of questions. We're going to do some questions in a minute. What else? Also, once again, I am an accessible person doing the show. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. For anything. Relationship advice, what to have for dinner, how to tune the guitar. I'm here. And boy, is my fiance pissed off about it. That said, let's clear the deck. And let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Boom. Let's bring our guest back on, Mr. Matt Henson. So, I want to mention what's coming up just real quick. Everybody out there that's in New York City this Friday, Authentic Productions, our friend Jorge, who's co-promoting the show on Sunday, over at the Woodshop, is doing Piston Broke, The Take, and a couple of other bands. And this ties in with Matt, you guys, all your guys coming in, and you're doing this this American Legion Hall in Philly, and then you're playing Berlin on Sunday. Tell us about this American Legion Hall you're doing. It's a benefit, correct?
It is. It's a benefit for an initiative called Code Blue, which essentially makes space available for people who are houseless. If the temperature gets below 32 degrees, obviously Philly gets super cold. They open their doors and they allow people a space to spend the night. It's being put on by a very dear friend of mine, George Alexander, who's in the chat. His Street Loyal Recovery Initiative, which is also a great avenue for people who are either sober or sober curious, who are looking for a collective of like-minded individuals who, are in the punk and hardcore scene and are sober. Ultimately, it's just a way to have some reach back support. But this is an amazing lineup. We're honored to be a part of it. And the fact that it's just for such an incredible cause just kind of is the icing on the cake, but we're very much looking forward to playing.
It's a really interesting cause. I looked into it a little bit, and I think it's fantastic, George. It's really great. And the reason I say that this show kind of ties in is that The Take and Piston Broke are playing this, and then the next day, they're coming to Philly, and then we have this on Sunday here in New York City. At Berlin. This is going to be a real barn burner. Please, everybody, come down. This is part of our series. Larry Kelly and Ray Hogan, the stage manager. It's Noise, Incendiary Device, American Eagle with Rocco, Brass Knuckle Brigade, Tear Gas, and this is one of the rare instances where the venue does not have anything going on after. So we're going to have a little bit of an after show with Sid the Kid spinning until 9 o'clock. But this is going to be a real barn burner. It's free. It's all ages. We're all really looking forward to it.
It's also featuring the most aggressive conglomerate of band names that has ever existed, minus we're like the least hardcore name in the entire bill. I just noticed that, just how
thank you for pointing it out. It kind of went over my head, but it's so true. Tear gas, Brass Knuckle Brigade,
American Eagle, Incendiary Device, and Noise.
No, this is going to be great, man. This is going to be great. Let me see, question wise. Is that right, George? You're coming up Sunday deep. Good, man. Please come say hello to me. I'd love to meet you. And there he is, Jorge Rodriguez from Authentic NYC Productions. Jorge is the one that connected me with you, and because I said let's collaborate on something. Let's do something together, like a New York Hardcore Chronicles. And he said, well, Noise is playing in Philly. Maybe we could make him an offer and get him in New York. So, yeah, Jorge, thank you.
I'm so glad that worked out.
Yeah,
Jorge, thank you very much.
Yeah, really glad that worked out. I wanted to ask you, because what art is this that your son is wearing on the sweatshirt?
That is his art.
Right. Okay.
That is his art. He came back from a painting class that he went to with his grandmother. I believe it's Fahar. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. He came back from a painting class and he had made this skull. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that is album art. Like we have to use that for something. And when we finished, the discussion with Pirates that we agreed that Liam would be released, because Liam, I did by myself. I did the bass, guitar, and vocals by myself in Jesse's basement. And then I left for Texas. Jesse and Kenny did the lead guitars and the drums on it. And I heard it for the first time, I think, just a couple of years ago. And it just kind of sat on my phone for a long time, and I didn't really know what to do with it other than play it for Liam, because it's for him. It's a song I wrote for him when he was little, when I deployed, in case I didn't come home. But the fact that we were able to use his art for the release is just it could not have been tied together any better. So yeah, he got to go to school wearing his own art on a sweatshirt.
Have your kids got a chance to see you play?
They have. They were very little. We played the Bash in Tacoma with Rancid and Suicidal in 07.
That's exciting.
And, it was a lot of fun. And that was the first and only time everybody has seen me play. Ferris was too little to remember. But what we will be doing in Philly is I will be FaceTiming Liam so that he's never heard Liam played live. So we're going to make that happen in Philly. Awesome. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see what we got here. David Mordell asks, what was it like working on the Wisdom in Chains Already Dead?
That was one of the, I'm a huge Wisdom in Chains fan, but like being asked to do that in and of itself was amazing. But what was a little cooler is how we did the video. I was in Missouri for an Army conference kind of. And so I was staying in this Holiday Inn Express, and Joe was like, we're trying to figure out how to get you in this video without bringing you to Philly. And in my mind, I'm like, bring me to Philly, because that is optimal. But they were able to develop the idea of me being on a cell phone and being passed from one person to the other while I did my verse. So I have always loved hardcore. I love what Wisdom in Chains does with hardcore because it's a little bit more melodic. Yeah. But being able to be a part of that, I was very nervous because I didn't know how it would be received or how well it would mesh with the song. But I feel like I am as satisfied with a guest vocal performance as I can be with Already Dead, and I've gotten to play it with them twice now,
Mm.
which was amazing. But yeah, it was amazing. You know, for lack of a better term.
Oh, and you did it together at This Is Hardcore.
Yeah. Yep. This is Hardcore 2022. I was able to do it.
Very cool. Very cool. This is a good question, and thanks, Pat Baldwin, because I know you posted this a couple times. So and thanks for sticking with it. Great question. Have you ever encountered a clash in work ethics between military and civilian cultures?
All right, that is a phenomenal question.
It is, right?
Not going to answer it.
I'm
Next
glad
question.
he stuck with it.
Yes and no. I think the military is just a microcosm of society. So depending on whether you have a positive or negative outlook, I tend to try and have a positive outlook. I feel like the challenges associated with the interpersonal dynamic of the military is applicable to anywhere that you go. So I kind of feel like it's a misnomer to feel like in the military everything's super, you know, disciplined and well run, and then you get out in the civilian world and you're like, this is insane. It's definitely different. But as long as you posture yourself to be able to like have the awareness that when you go to a different place, whether it's a civilian military or you're just going from one company in the civilian world to another, there's going to be a culture change. And I think it's your experience is predicated on how well you can acclimate. So I've always tried to teach my soldiers that they're going to get out one day and they need to start prepping themselves for that and not get so immersed in military culture that you're like unable to function when you get somewhere else. And I try to like adhere to my own advice because I'm a civilian now. I work with some military, but you know, to a large degree, it's civilian. The biggest culture shock that I had was internally, and it was what prompted me to stop drinking, and it was the fear associated with the unknown and leaving something you've done for so long. Pat, does that answer your question, or am I just like rambling? I feel like either is possible.
That makes sense. I like Jose's question too. He says, "How is the punk scene in the military? Are there many fans of the music?" And
There are.
let me sort of modify it. Like, what all the years that you were in? I mean, did you come across people that you know are just super big punk fans, or maybe, yeah,
100%. Again, it's a microcosm, and I feel like a lot of kids and a lot of people came to the decision to join the military for the same reasons that I did. But even beyond that, I think this music speaks to a lot more people than we tend to consider. I can't tell you how many people I've turned on to punk rock being in the military. So it's not a question of whether or not they're into it. It's a question of whether or not they've been exposed to it. And a lot of people are experiencing the same things that make punk rock relevant. They've just never been introduced to that medium and that outlet. So sometimes all they need is just a little push or just to hear one song. And that is their gateway into the music. And also it means that I get to listen to my music when I'm riding in their car, which is the most important thing of all.
Great. Shouting out Frankie Too Far from Step Too Far, a big supporter. Outstanding episode. Matt, what was your MOS?
I was a 74 Delta. So I was in the civilian context, it's like counter weapons of mass destruction, which is kind of what I do now. But I also did forensics in Afghanistan. I was a SSE enabler with 1st Special Forces Group for most of my career, fortunately, which is why I was in Tacoma for so long, which is why noise kind of did its thing. But yep, I was a Seaburn dork.
That makes sense. Danny Cole just makes it took me a while to adapt to civilian life. I didn't know what to do with myself. I think that's kind of standard, isn't it?
100%. And I think it's because the military is such an all-encompassing vocation where it's like 24/7. You're a soldier, you're deploying, you're training, you're with the people that you're working with all the time, right? And then you live with them if you're single or you're living in the barracks. So that is so common, brother. Like it's something that I anticipated intensely, to the point where I gave myself such anxiety that it was very problematic. But my stressors and everything came before I transitioned, because I was lucky enough to find a job before I got out. But there was a few months there where I my boss had basically kicked me out of the office in the Army, because he was like, "You need to take care of yourself. You need to stop coming in here and trying to, you know, do Army things."
Mm.
And things got very quiet, and things got
Mm.
very, um, boring, and that has never been a good thing for me at all. So yeah, man, I hope, Danny, I hope you're acclimating better. If you're not, hit me up. I see you're on Facebook. Send me a message. I'm more than happy to talk you through things. But the main thing is that you get to that point where you feel like you're comfortable in your own skin, civilian wise.
Another great friend and supporter, Paul Stone, asks, "What's the one thing you missed most after your family while serving?"
The operational satisfaction of a job where you're jumping out of airplanes and you're doing things where you can remove yourself a little bit and be like, this is insane. Some of the things that I did were very scary. Some things that, um, but you're not replicating that adrenaline rush in the civilian world at all. And I think that's probably what I missed the most. However, I knew that that was going to be the case beforehand. So I started making my peace with saying goodbye to, all of the, adrenaline rushes. And then prior to me leaving the Army, I had ascended to a rank where we don't get to do, sergeant majors don't get to do very many cool things. It's a lot of sitting around. So yeah, it was a gradual divorce from doing cool guy stuff.
Makes sense. Lenny B from Crazy Eddie and from Fahrenheit says they'll spend 20 years teaching you stuff, but when it comes to retirement, they don't teach you how to be a civilian again.
They try. It's
they?
just not something. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
an exit process for retirees where they try and acclimate you a little bit to civilian life, but it's just too big of a thing to sit. And today we're going to teach you a class on how to not be a soldier, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's a bridge too far, I think. But
Right.
man, it's tough. I still try and lend my experience to help guys that are, exiting the military. Because it's terrifying, and we lose a lot of people to mental health issues. So again, I'm very vocal and very transparent about my departure from the military, just like I am everything else, because if it resonates with someone and prompts them to reach out for assistance, that's what it's all about. It's not really about, look at what I'm doing, everybody, and look at, the things that, look at my sobriety, or it's more to serve as a prompt to other people to reach out if they need help with anything.
That makes sense. Okay, good. That said, well, everybody's chiming in. I was 0341.60 and 81 millimeter mortar at Fort Fun Times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Frankie Too Far. I'm not sure what this means. High speed 13F here. I don't know what that means.
So high speed is a military euphemism. It just means you're doing cool stuff, ultimately. Basically, if you call somebody high speed, it means they're not a douchebag.
Right.
Or you're being sarcastic about doing something really stupid.
This is a good one, and we're definitely heading down the home stretch here. But I like this one, Knights of Old, and we'll try to answer this with as much finesse as possible. Is the political divide as prevalent in the military as it is in civilian life, social media? Good question.
I was waiting for that. Yes, it is. The challenge with leadership in the Army is to try and bring everybody together for a common purpose, right? And I know that sounds really kind of cliche, but it is an immense challenge. Me as a leader, and being very keenly aware of the political sphere of our country and the climate, and how it has done the things that it has done. What you really have to focus on is having the conversation of what we have in common, especially because you have to get a job done, right? So while the conversation of where people stand politically, that can be had in a friendship capacity, but in the capacity of teammates, it needs to be avoided in the interest of making sure that everybody is focused on, first of all, taking care of each other, but also executing a goal, right? So those are conversations that I have definitely had with friends of mine in the military, whom I don't agree with politically, and that's fine. You actually, I would submit you grow more as a person talking to somebody that you don't agree with if you can actually do it like an adult and do it civilly. And you're not just regurgitating talking points. You actually have your own point of view. But yeah, it does exist because, again, the military is a microcosm of society. So everything that exists in the civilian world exists in the military in some degree. So that those political divisions, I think that they are less overt because of the emphasis placed on executing a common goal. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. In conclusion, what does the future hold? What are your hopes and dreams?
I want to be a better father, and I want to be a better husband, and I want to be a better friend. I think sobriety was kind of my gateway to that. I've always been a big proponent of self-development, but I feel like with my struggle with alcohol, I could only get so far, and there was a ceiling that was kind of placed on my development as a human being, and then that ceiling was removed. So now I am experiencing all these different things like being present, and what I'm trying to do is draw on the dynamic I created of self-development, but doing so with a clear head and relying on friends like George who just chimed in, relying on my sober friends to just get a perspective, right? I didn't do a group or anything like that. Absolutely nothing against it whatsoever. It just, my journey to sobriety was a little different. So I really am researching on how to be a better man in every conceivable context. And it's a work in progress, and it's never going to stop. I understand that I continue to have to reevaluate my relationship with my family and myself and everyone else. But as I do that, I feel like every time I take a step back and evaluate my existence in my relationships, I do so with more tools in my belt to do it more effectively. So that applies to everything. It applies to my job. It applies to noise. So when we go into the studio, it's gonna be my first time going into the studio sober, and I hope that I've had more time to develop more tools and more assets that I can bring to the table and make a better record, just like I would do in any other facet of my life. That's my goal.
Fantastic. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you and the band, and you know, we're gonna have a great day together. Anybody out there in the tri-state area, or if anybody feels like traveling, this Sunday, January 19th, 1 week from today. It is the big wallop lineup, as we say. It is the most violent lineup of all time. Noise,
Yes.
Incendiary Device, American Eagle, Brass Knuckle Brigade, Tear Gas. Sid the Kid is spinning, and there's going to be an after show until 9 o'clock. Larry Kelly's the production manager. Ray Hogan is the stage manager. Eddie Guz, the best sound man in New York, is going to be doing sound. We're looking forward to it. Anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out?
So my bandmates, specifically Aaron Williams, Mike Parker, Justin, who agreed to come back, I say it every show, or I try to, but it's worth repeating. Noise would not be continuing were it not for the work and dedication of those guys. Thank you to everybody who has assisted us in any way, from flying us in to play a show, from buying our records, from streaming it, or from just reaching out to the band and saying that something that we have put out has resonated with you or helped you through something. That is honestly why we do it. Thanks to our record label, Drew. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You know, I've said it before, but it bears repeating again, that like using a platform like this to have a dialogue, whether it's overt or inadvertent, you're still providing the ability for people to listen to something that might resonate with them and help them through something. So I feel like it's such a positive thing to do, having podcasts like this.
Thank you.
And I'm super thankful that they exist, but I'm also thankful that I can potentially be included and leverage my, limited experience, but to do so to help other people is what it's all about.
Absolutely, and I consider myself really fortunate. I'm really grateful for what I have and have the opportunity, to do this show and connect with people around the world. That said, our friend George, I didn't realize that the show's free down in Philly. Is that right? Philly is a free event. So. Hey, Larry Kelly, if you're still out there, yeah, because Larry Kelly was asking me about it, and I said, I don't know if it's free, if it's sold out or
Free
what.
show.
Free show.
Free show. Please come out. I think George, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're taking donations for Code Blue. Please come out, hang out. And if you see me or any of the other guys, please say hi. I look like an ass most of the time, but
I look like this.
This is not, I'm not upset. I'm not mad. My face is stuck this way, as my mother warned. But yeah, come say hi. We really, ultimately, we really appreciate the fact that we get to do this. And it's just the fact that anybody is listening to our music, but let alone would be interested in sharing with us that it gets them through a hard time, or, is something that they have, or has been the soundtrack to a significant event in their life. That's incredible. And it's such a huge experience, but it's really a huge responsibility as much as, it really makes you rethink the product that you are supplying and delivering to the audience, because it really needs to be done in a pragmatic method and really allow the attention and the thought that it deserves. So, man, we're so happy that we're able to do stuff like this.
Fantastic. I will see you soon, my friend.
Yeah, I can't wait.
All right, take care.
Hey, take care, Drew.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Another one in the books. What a great guest. What a great show. What a great audience. And I really hope that this show was dedicated to the spirit of Alexa Poli, a great New York hardcore soldier, and is also dedicated to the people out in LA who have just really been struggling with what's been going on out there. And it was just so, I know I got a little mushy today. For some reason, I was just feeling nostalgic about the show and having the opportunity to do the show and having great people like Paul Stone and Sean McNally and Rick and Jorge Rodriguez and, guys, new friends like George Alexander and Jose, and of course, Ray Hogan and Larry Kelly and Courtney and Bear Bro. Man, listen. How can we lose with the stuff that we use? Thanks a lot, everybody. I hope. We're back here on Wednesday, a Wednesday show. A couple of days we'll be back here, and then of course Sunday is the big banger down at Berlin, not the Bowery Electric. The show was moved to Berlin. So thanks a lot, everybody. I will see you soon, and until then, I'm preaching to the converted here. I'm singing to the choir. I'm singing to the choir. Thank you, Darren. Thank you. Of course, Andre Slayer 77. But sometimes, it's shows like this, days like today, that just, just great. Yeah, and Sean, you better be there. And Sean, we're going to, me and Tristan are going in to do vocals in the studio tomorrow, by the way. And listen to what we did in the studio yesterday. Get your guitar parts on point. Here we go. Thank you, Dan. I just don't want to say goodbye. When's the ID Boston show? Not sure yet. There's some talk. We're recording right now. That's we're recording and, playing sporadically, but we'll be up there again. It'll happen. We'll do it. We'll do it up. All right? Listen, tell your loved ones you love them. That's important. Until then, until what could be Wednesday or could be Sunday, do good things and good things will come.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control.